picture in the background right there. That's
Yeah,
nice.
you know, eye on the prize.
Leading to the truth.
That's right. Stairway to Heaven, or the bridge to heaven,
Bridge to
whatever.
paradise.
That's right. That's right. That's where we are. We are on the bridge to paradise.
That's right. Thank you for coming on this podcast with me. You are the official second guest. And I feel like we're going to go and diving some really deep knowledge type stuff right here. But first, I really want to talk about your background, actually how we met. And let's get right into it. Introduce yourself, Jared.
Yeah, cool. I appreciate it, Scott. So yeah, this is exciting. So my name is Jared James. I've been an online marketer and kind of a critical thinker and questioner of the narrative for many years now. I've been doing online marketing, being an entrepreneur for about 15 years in a variety of different ways. Kind of what even got me into that was, and even just thinking differently, was back when I was in high school. I remember I was a senior in high school, and I was in English class, and I don't know what it was, but I was just sitting there, like having this kind of like, almost like an out-of-body experience, but it wasn't necessarily out of body. I was just like sitting there, like wondering, like, what is it like? Because I was going through the routine of school, and then I would go to my job at the time, and then do homework and hang out with friends, and go to sleep and wake up and do it again. And it was just like this routine, and I had been doing that for, I don't know, for most of high school, and I was just like, is this really all it is? Like, is this what's going to be the next like 50, 60 years of my life? Just like doing this routine over and over again. I just wasn't satisfied with it. So I didn't know what else was out there, but I knew there had to be something. So I remember like having this thought, like, I don't know what else there is, but there has to be something else to life than just this routine. So a few weeks after that, I happened to be in Barnes and Nobles. I was like looking at different magazines and stuff, and I was walking through the aisles, and I saw this book stand out to me, and it said Think and Grow Rich. And I was like, oh, well, that sounds interesting.
Oh, this is crazy because my actual first podcast guest, Julio, he brought out the Think and Grow Rich. So a synchronistic event right there with you mentioning that. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I swear Napoleon Hill is,
And how old were you when this all happened?
So many people.
When you started getting these thoughts?
I was probably 17.
17, so about senior year in high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then when I first opened up that book, the first chapter title said, Thoughts Are Things. And I was just like, huh, interesting. That's like I never learned about or contemplated the idea that our thoughts had any significance. Like I was just never kind of taught about that. You don't really learn that in school typically. So,
well, I think most of the school curriculum, they don't teach more of the self work. And what I mean is like knowing that you can control your thoughts and you don't have to allow your thoughts to control you, and even allow your emotions to control you, because actually they give us all this knowledge and this repertoire of memorizing all this random knowledge, but they don't show us really how to apply that wisdom. So I don't know, that just is something that I found interesting. And it's crazy that you learned this concept at like 17 years old. And so where did that journey take you with the next series of thoughts and actions?
Yeah, for sure. So after I started reading that book, obviously, I bought it. I'm like, okay, this is what I want to learn about. So I started reading the book, and really I was just blown away because, the book came out in, I believe, 1937, and Napoleon Hill, who was the author, had been studying some of the most wealthy and successful people in the country and around the world for like 20 years, 25 years. And so I was just blown away by how this like was never taught. Like I'd never learned about this. And so I'm like, wait a second, he's talking about how the guy who created Coca-Cola used imagination to come up with the formula. And, people like Henry Ford and Thomas Edison using persistence and using a mastermind of having like-minded people around to create all these things. So I'm like, I just got super inspired, and I'm like, this is the kind of stuff I want to learn about. Like, English and history, the general kind of stuff that they teach in the textbooks, that's fine. But like this stuff seems super, super relevant and very like significant, like teaching us about our mind and the power we have and how we can create virtually anything that we want. And so that was really inspiring for me. So I kept reading that book and rereading it and writing notes about it, different ideas and thoughts that I had. And then from there, a few months after that, I had an idea which became my first company, which was a clothing company. So I created that kind of unofficially while I was still in high school.
Can you say the name?
It was called Rahfle Apparel, and it was spelled RAHFLE, Apparel, and it stood for Relax and Have Fun limited edition apparel. And so basically it just kind of came into my head one time, just like relax and have fun, like the concept of relax and have fun. And I was like, oh wow, that's cool. I like that. Just something about it just resonated with me. So I wrote it down, and I just like kept writing it and playing around with the words. And then I had, RAHF, relax and have fun. And I'm like, Rahfle Apparel. Rahfle Apparel. Oh my God, that'd be so. And then it just like popped into my head, like this clothing company based around relax and have fun, kind of a concept. And so that's kind of what
was that a one-man mission that you were doing this? It's just hearing you basically came to this realization sitting in class alone, and then from your own self-knowledge, from your own self wanting to search for a higher meaning, you went to a bookstore randomly as a 17-year-old. I mean, come on, like a lot of kids don't really read books as much, right? Yep. And then you found...
This is my first rodeo.
And it's like you found that one particular book in this one particular section. It almost feels like a movie happening right now. You picked it out, started reading, and you're like, oh my God, I can control things with my thoughts. I can create things with my thoughts because I see it all around me from like Coca-Cola and all these other companies. And then you go ahead and build an apparel company, and you did this all by yourself. Like all this like happened, just something sparked within you.
Yep.
Is that what happened?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I didn't, because for me, like, being, 17 years old at the time, like I didn't know anyone else was like aware of this stuff. I didn't know who knew this stuff. So I'm just like thinking, it's kind of just like self work and learning. So I didn't really have people to like, oh my God, did you read this book? And da 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 da. So I kind of just like kept it to myself because I didn't know if anyone else knew about this stuff or whatever. So it definitely was kind of my own process in creating it. But the cool thing is once I started like making a couple of shirts and wearing it and sharing it with some of my friends, a friend of mine was totally on like the same wavelength. Like he was ambitious, he wanted to do other things, like he wanted to do like entrepreneurial stuff. So we kind of had a mastermind on my birthday. Actually, one of my birthdays, we were talking about it for like hours, and we're like, okay, cool. We had all these ideas, and then the next day we were just like, all right, let's do it. What do we need to do? So we basically just met up. And we're like, okay, we need shirts, and then we need a design. And then we just needed to like print them. So I basically had like paper that you can print and then like cut out and like iron on the shirts. That's like literally how we started doing it. So we went to the flea market
by hand. Wow.
Got like a few dozen blank shirts. Went to like Best Buy or something and got the printing paper. And then I was looking at different like fonts on my computer. I'm like, as soon as I saw the design, I'm like, oh, that's the one. That's the one. It looked perfect. So then we just started printing shirts, sharing it with friends and family and so forth. And then, just started getting the word out and doing custom shirts and stuff like that. And then kind of how it relates to what I do with like online marketing. At that time, I didn't even know what internet marketing was. But once we had a few months of like sharing shirts with friends, family, and so forth, people we knew, it's like, okay, now it's time to like take it to the next level. So like, let's get a website created and let's bring it online. So we had someone develop a website for us, which had, cool bells and whistles, and it looked really nice. And obviously it was functional. And so once it was done, I remember I was just looking at the website and I was like, okay, well now what? I'm like, don't people just like buy stuff? Like, well, how come no one's buying stuff from our website? Like what's going on?
I think
here?
That's always
so that's when I realized like, you don't just build it and they will come. You actually have to, yeah, for sure. So it's like, we have to get people to the website. So I had no idea like how to do that, what that entailed. So then I, go to Google and I'm like, how do you sell products on the internet? And so that's what led me to a whole other rabbit hole of discovering what internet marketing was and, digital products and autoresponders and all the stuff relating to internet marketing. And so this just opened up a whole other like portal for me as far as like what I wanted to do, because I was just amazed that there were people making millions of dollars a year with an internet-based business and utilizing like technology and setting up systems to have this like flow of people going to their website, buying stuff, and like all of this can be automated. And I was just like, oh my God, like, yes, like that's what I want to do. So as I started learning more about internet marketing, that became more of my passion. And so we did the clothing company for a while, but literally we didn't like, I was 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. So we weren't like fully optimized. We didn't like know exactly what we were doing. It was kind of my first venture. So I was literally like cutting, printing, ironing shirts for like hours a day to like make these shirts. We never went to a screen printer.
So with the content marketing side, because you are learning how to do internet marketing, what kind of content did you craft to keep pushing that one brand? Or like, what made you decide, what was the primary reason to have that brand? then what kind of content did you use to market that brand, and what did you learn from it ultimately, and what happened next? I know that was like a lot of questions at one time, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, so basically, what we had the website. I started learning more about internet marketing, and then we didn't really create a lot of content because like back then that, like, I don't know, we just didn't have that. Like we weren't. I don't even know what was really popular with social media. I know MySpace came into the scene like shortly after that, but we had kind of shifted our focus from there because kind of as I started learning more about internet marketing and kind of digital products and stuff like that, it was more leverage than what I was doing with the t-shirts. And so we kind of shifted our focus to do more digital products and other kind of more leveraged strategies. It was just kind of following our excitement. So we kind of shifted our focus from the clothing company to other projects that were more like affiliate marketing, consulting with other companies and doing kind of more things that required less like physical labor. Working an hour to make a shirt so that, you had a $5 or $10 profit on it didn't really make sense.
Yeah, being more
smart
with your time.
Kind of shifted our focus once we started learning more about internet marketing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, so with like you're saying, you're talking about how you were following your excitement. So as you went through all these different digital products, what was the excitement of the products? What caused it for you to pursue that idea further? Because it seems like from whatever idea that you were pursuing, you kept gaining more knowledge in the pursuit of it.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that I learned as I started learning about internet marketing is there were people selling like ebooks, right? So like digital books for $37, $67, $97. And I'm like, how is it that a person can sell a digital book? So there's no paper, right? How can someone sell a digital book for $60, $70 when a physical book that has like material that costs something, it maybe costs like $15, $20? And I'm like, how is that even possible? Why are people doing this? But so then I learned about the perceived value, right? Perceived value. So if if an ebook can teach someone a very specific thing on how to lose weight or whatever the topic may be, if they can deliver a specific result that a person wants, then it's not necessarily about the price that the book or whatever it is costs. It's how much value does the recipient get out of it? What's it worth to have that end result that they want? And so that really kind of shifted my mind, where it's not like, it's not just based on what the product costs. It's what value does it give to the end consumer, the end user? And so for me, that kind of opened my eyes of like shifting the paradigm around, that makes sense. So then I just started getting more interested around, information marketing, because there's so much, value that can be done there. And again, you can automate a lot of things. You don't have to print shirts. You don't have to ship. You don't have to do all these things. So for me, it was just more of the leverage that it kind of captivated my attention, as well as, understanding the power of information, because I read Think and Grow Rich, which was information. It wasn't necessarily, a t-shirt, or it wasn't something else. It was information, right? So that's what kind of helped me kind of shift focus into the digital part of things.
And so what kind of information were you attempting to push out there in the world and for people to extract value from? Like, was there a focus of an idea that you wanted to spread or to make more of an awareness of?
Yeah, for sure. So when I read Think and Grow Rich, that was a huge, life-changing moment for me. So I was really interested in helping more people become aware of that type of information, right?
That new mental paradigm.
Yeah, for sure. So around personal development, the mindset kind of things and stuff like that. So that was kind of my main focus. I more recently got more into natural health and other kind of biohacking things. But initially it was more about just the mindset and goal setting and understanding the power we have with our thoughts and our energy. So that was kind of the main focus. And then actually shortly after that part, The Secret came out, the movie The Secret. And so once I saw that movie, it was just again, mind blowing to a whole nother level, because it was oh my God, this is a more current version of what they were talking about in Think and Grow Rich. And now a bunch of different people are talking about it. And so that kind of reignited my passion for, personal development, mindset, law of attraction stuff. So that really kind of took it to the next level. And I just, got more excited and started just developing other things from there.
And when you're when you finally got this new mental paradigm shift and you started to dive deeper into like the metaphysics, because the moment you said law of attraction, you know, law of correspondence, the 7 Kabbalion laws, have you seen the results of following the excitement of your heart, also following these universal laws, knowing when to push for something, but also knowing when to let go? How have you seen it manifest in your life?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's like, the more I learn about it and the deeper my understanding is of it, the more I see it show up like everywhere, right? Through people's attitudes. Like, people that are angry, they typically don't get what they want, and they're typically more angry, and they have more reasons to complain and be angry. It's like they're just putting out more and they're getting more, and that's what their focus is based on what their energy is. So for me, once I understood that my emotion and my like vibration, my energy, my attitude is what is going to affect my perception, and that's what's going to help create more of my life experience, it became a discipline for me to really have my emotions, my feelings be the main thing that I focus on, right? So the better I feel, the better I feel, right? And so as I started like playing around with this, like manifesting things, following your excitement, but not being attached to things. So a lot of times I've, manifested or created different opportunities and projects and so forth because I had an excitement for it. But I noticed sometimes when I would get like too focused on it and like, oh, it needs to be this way, then it wouldn't happen, and something else would happen. So then I realized there has to be that balance of being excited and knowing what you want, but then being like, okay, if that particular thing doesn't happen, right? And so that's like kind of the pressure valve that like releases, pressure from having it needing to be a specific way, because, we live in a vast universe of so much more than our brains can be aware of. And so we don't know what we don't know, and we don't always know what is the quote unquote best for us and the highest good. So it's definitely a balancing act of knowing what you want, deciding to create it, but at the same time being open to having it show up another way that may be even better than we can think of.
Yeah, to add on what you're saying, it's like we're stuck in like a 3-dimensional body, walking through a 4th dimensional plane, and then we can activate it through like, it's not scientifically proven, but I feel like we're in like 5th dimensional, 6th dimensional, depending on our own awareness, our own utilizing our own emotions. And so when I say this is that the human mind, the human body, the human brain is a 3D construct, and it can only do so much. So it's almost like you have to work in unison with the universe. You have to work in unison with your own higher spirit and your own higher self to lead you to these ways. And the key thing that I have found in my life is finding that striking that balance. So I ask you then, what did you do for yourself to find that balance within you so you can keep hearing that GPS signal to leading you to the target that you want to go into?
Yeah. So a couple of things. Number one, trial and error is a very good teacher, right? So life experience is a great teacher. So words can only teach so much, but life experience is a really good teacher. So as I was like learning this information and applying it, I would see different things that would show up at different times. So it's like, oh, well, this didn't really happen. Why would that be? And questioning it and kind of, fine tuning my focus, goals, etc. So definitely trial and error is helpful, but also what I found to be very helpful as far as being able to tune into the energy and my kind of inner guidance is like cleansing out the body, right? Because a lot of times if people have a lot of toxins in their body and they're just not aware of that, which a lot of people aren't kind of by default, then they don't even have much of a sense of their inner guidance. That's kind of been numb, because they aren't able to be aware or, be conscious of the power of having a, clean vessel or, removing the toxins. So as I started just doing more cleanses, and this is kind of what led me into learning more about natural health and becoming more interested in that, is because I realized that, our body is our vehicle, it's our vessel. So if we have a lot of toxins in our body, it doesn't operate as well. We aren't able to think as clearly. We aren't able to think or focus as powerfully. So as I started realizing that, I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. So cleansing out the toxins and cleansing out of the stuff and improving what we put into our body helped me think clearly. It helped me, be more focused, be more energized, and then I started, having more energy, being able to focus and create things better. So for me, it really comes down to like trial and error, but then also like clear out the junk that's in our system, so that we can just operate, better.
Mm. So what natural ways did you use for like for your physical body? What methods did you use basically to gain that equilibrium within your body, to cleanse it, to make it feel better, to give you more energy to go towards your actions, to completing your goals? Like, what exactly were those methods that you personally used?
Yeah, for sure. So several things. Number one, like doing different cleanses. So like colon cleanses and liver cleanses and fat cell cleanses, doing those over time. Even like for me back then, like I wasn't drinking that much water. I was drinking like juices and sodas and stuff like that. So it's like just replacing that with water, exercising more, getting like a mini trampoline and just jumping on that for 5 or 10 minutes or whatever, even like 30 seconds. Like it's just changed you as you laugh just hearing about it, because you probably know exactly. It like boosts your mood just like jumping on the thing for like 5 seconds. And so doing these little things like stretching more, getting into nature more, meditating, doing all these different things kind of added up. And so like each one thing individual is like a little like pinch of salt into the soup, which may not necessarily change the flavor of the soup, but as you add 20, 30, 40, 50 pinches of salt, it completely changes the flavor of it. So for me, it was kind of that. It was just this, we kept building on each other the more the things that I would do. So like meditating and then stretching and being in nature and doing cleanses and getting into a sauna and sweating out toxins and eating better and, being around other people that had similar like-minded kind of attitudes.
Oh yeah, that's very important.
Things. Yeah. So then it just like adds up into this whole different thing. And then like after a while, it's just like I'm in this like completely different reality. And now it's like I'm in this like unconsciously competent, where it's like I just automatically know my emotions and what I focus on is key. That's like paramount to everything else. So no matter what situation I'm in, no matter what's going on around me, I see things as an opportunity. And like I very rarely feel like a victim. I'm like, okay, well, what did I do to create this? Mm-hmm. What did I do to create this? And I think that's super powerful, because when people understand, to whatever degree they believe it or can be aware of it, but they are creators of their reality and their experience. And so even if it's something challenging where they don't understand it or they don't think that they did create it, you have power when you take the position that somehow I created this, so that means I have the power to change it. And so taking responsibility for our life and our experience allows us to have the power to create whatever it is that we want. And I think that's what actually initially kind of shifted my perspective back when I was in high school, because I was just going through this routine. I didn't really have, deliberate control over my reality. I was just kind of going through this routine because that's what I thought you were supposed to do. But once I realized there was another option based on the information that I was becoming aware of, I was like, oh, okay, well, I can do something different. And then that's what kind of shifted my path into being more of a, more at cause over my reality rather than being at effect to my life that I was living.
Okay, give me a second to word this question, because it got me like this big old concept, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to untangle this and ask the question? Because we're going to roll it back a little bit. And the reason why I wanted to roll it back, okay, so the first one actually, because I'm going to have you explain it to the audience here before I get into, hopefully I don't forget the question as you're explaining this. Okay, explain to us the 4 different types of competence and why it matters so much.
Yeah, sure. So basically unconscious competence is when it's just things happen like automatically. So like driving a car, most people that have, been driving for a while, it's just automatic. They drive and they know where they're going and they don't even have to think about it. So there's 4 stages of like learning any kind of new information. So there's unconscious incompetence, which is when you don't know that you don't know. So things that we're not even aware of right now, like how many planets are in the solar system, or how many planets are in the universe, right? Like before I even mentioned it, like I didn't know that, right? And so then once things come onto your radar screen and you become aware of them, then you become consciously incompetent, which means you know that you don't know. So, now I'm aware that I don't know how many planets are in the universe or the galaxy or whatever. So then then once you begin to learn the process, and so if we were to like Google it and Google that information, then we reach the place of conscious competence, which is mean we kind of know it, we're aware of it, we have to like practice it. So in like in the driving example, like you didn't drive in a stick shift, like, oh, I didn't even know what was supposed to be happening, and then someone shows you and you're like, oh, okay, well now I know that I don't know how to do that, and then someone teaches you and you begin to learn, and you maybe like struggle and you stall out a few times or whatever. So that's when you're in the conscious competence stage, when you're like learning and you have to like consciously focus on it to make it happen, to get the results. And then after a while, and this happens with developing any kind of habit, once you practice over and over and over again at the conscious competence level, then at some point you get to the unconscious competence level when it's just like autopilot and it's automatic, right? Like we walk and we don't even think that we have to we're not even thinking that, oh, we're putting one foot in front of the other and we're balancing. It's like when we were young, like we couldn't stand up without falling over, right? And so like we kind of take things for granted. Like our language is probably one of the most complicated things we could ever learn.
Oh, yeah.
Like the development that happens with that is just incredible. And so getting to unconscious competence with these success principles or universal laws or principles is super valuable, because then you don't have to like think about it, right? You don't have to be like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm supposed to have like I gotta be grateful, that's right, and this and this and this. It's like once it becomes automatic, then life becomes much, much better and a lot more magical, because it's just part of who you are, and that's just like what happens. And so your life begins to improve. So that's why I like learning this stuff, reading Think and Grow Rich, and listening to things like Your Wish is Your Command, and reading books like Natural Cures I Don't Want You to Know About. Once you begin to like get past the conscious competence level of reading it or listening to it or whatever, and you get to the unconscious competence stage, then life just gets so much more enjoyable, because you don't have to like struggle to be happy. it's just part of the automatic thing of who you are.
Yeah, it's almost like so I call it kind of like there's muscle memory, and then you got mental memory, and then this kind of like new concept jumped in my head. It's like spirit memory, like where you're working in accordance with who you are truly, your self-actualized state, and along with the universe. And that's crazy, because this actually is going to lead me. So I still want to ask this other question, but what you just said right now makes me really think of something else, is that you ask yourself the big question for yourself about how to, like, is this really what life is all about? And for you, you're like, no, it isn't. So you went through different stages of learning, and through those different stages of learning, you went through different stages of doing. And then as you became conscious of your own incompetence, you started getting the conscious competence, and now it's becoming more of a flow state, and you're doing it in an automatic realm. So would you say, okay, so from that, your unconscious competence, do you believe that needing to reaching the unconscious competence level, does that help you create your reality, or do you believe you can create your reality before you hit those other states? Like,
yeah. No, that's a good question. So we're always creating our reality. It's just whether we are doing it deliberately or not.
Okay.
And so like for me, like, up to the time when I read Think and Grow Rich, like I was still thinking, like I still had thoughts. My thoughts were creating, and emotion, like all these things were already happening. I just wasn't aware. Like I didn't know that I didn't know of the power of it, but everything's being created. And that's just why like people that, think, oh, the law of attraction doesn't work, or this or this or this. It's like, all right, I don't believe in that. It's like, look, you're broadcasting thoughts, whether you believe it or not. Like this is like, we're made of energy, whether even if someone like doesn't believe that, it's like, well, that doesn't matter, because we're all made of energy. Like this is what's happening in this realm. So we're always creating our reality. But what happens is once you become like aware and you realize, oh, wait a second, I can actually like take control of this. I can direct my thoughts in certain ways. And then I feel different when I have different thoughts. And so kind of using that as a game, or like a practice to really just be aware of how do your thoughts and your emotions correlate. And when you feel a certain way, what happens in your life, like, kind of just taking note of that is a good practice to do throughout the day. Like, oh, because I notice like even sometimes when I feel bad, or if like I'm driving and, a person pulls out or whatever, and it's like, I get frustrated. And then I notice, oh, I'm noticing more things to be frustrated about. Then I have to like, be like, okay, shift that. And then, get back into a better state. But yeah, really just being aware of it. And then once you become consciously competent and then get to an unconscious competence level, then it just allows a person to create their reality more deliberately with less effort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because to add on what you're saying is like, I want to bring in a little bit of science here with Einstein's equation.
Mm-hmm.
Energy equals, or E equals mc squared, which happens to be like energy is converted to matter at the speed of light times exponentially squared. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
our spinal cord, where some people like to call like the chakra, is like literally the antenna towards our environment and the universe in a bigger sense of the meaning. And it also connects us to our brain, which happens to help us perceive what's happening around us. And at this point, it seems like you're having an understanding of your own physical processes and your mental processes. Now you are in the state of working in accordance with the universe. You're building things out through your mind. And as you're in the process of building out through your mind, you're actually always investing all that you've learned back into yourself by feeding yourself with good knowledge, with good food to provide yourself with the energy to keep on doing things. So what I'm going to ask you next, I think we might get in deeper with this one.
All right.
You're consciously aware of everything because